Hello again, everyone, and welcome to 90s to Now. I, of course, am Jerry Strauss. And folks, we so often on this show get to celebrate so many of the stars that we first got to know and love back in the 90s. Today, we're going in a little bit of a different direction because we are talking to somebody who is part of the latest evolution of a classic TV show that we first got to love back in the 80s and the 90s. Of course, we remember it fondly, and it's back. It's back on NBC, it's back on Peacock, and it's back for season 2. So we know that we're falling in love with this show all over again. The show, of course, Night Court. Our guest, you see her on the screen right now, the wonderfully talented and hilarious Lacretta. Lacretta, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing so good. I got to confess, first of all, in preparing for this episode, I did check out a couple other recent interviews you did, and I'm so excited that you're on the set. I saw that you had your set with Lacretta behind you on the wall. That is the coolest thing ever.
Thank you. This is my gaming situation. I've got a dusty PS5 down there that I don't use. I've switched to PC now,
Oh,
so
okay.
I feel bad about that thing sitting down there. But I will play Horizon Forbidden West on there pretty soon, and God of War Ragnarok. I'll be finishing those up on the PS5.
Wow. Okay. You are busy.
Oh yeah.
That sounds like you're voluntarily adopting another full-time job beyond this night court thing.
Yeah, it is. Like I'll stream for like 3.5 to 8 hours. So it just depends on how I'm feeling that day.
Wow, 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 wow. Well, look, we're so glad we could grab a few minutes of your time to talk about about Night Court. Um, I want to start off right off the bat. I want to just talk about your character, Gurgs. For those of you who might be checking out the second season of Night Court, maybe catching up through the first, and then checking out this newest incarnation. I love the fact that the characters that you guys have brought to this what do you call it, because I consider it not a reboot but more of a revival of the show. Is that what?
We lovingly call it a new boot.
Nice.
So it's new in that there are new characters there. John Larroquette is the only one that has kept his same Dan Fielding character into this new incarnation. And we still have the boot part because it is a reboot of the original story. So we're picking it up about 30 years after the first one ended.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the things, and look, so many of us love Night Court, one of the longest running sitcoms of its time. And I think one of the things that made it so distinct and memorable was that each and every character was very distinct and memorable. And each and
Mhm.
every character on the new boot is also distinct and memorable, and not necessarily a retread of what we saw in the original. These are brand new original characters. And I think that Gurgs is certainly an extremely original character. Let's wrap our heads around this a little bit, because uh, such an interesting a person to bring into this world. How much of Gurgs would you say was something that was planned, that was on paper, so to speak, versus what you may have organically brought to the role over the first season or so?
I can't quite remember what the breakdown was, but basically, her heart is on her sleeve. She's fiercely protective of her coworkers, and she takes her job very seriously. What I brought to it was, when I was going to school and going to grad school and actually working on theater and what those principles were, oftentimes we would say we're living in the moment, live in the moment, be in the moment. And I feel that that's the way that Gurgs looks at life in general. In this moment, these things are true. In this moment, even if I say something like, "Oh, did you hit the jukebox and it didn't come on?" Like I'm very concerned about that one moment. In that moment, and everything around that is true. Like, and because I had experience with Happy Days, like that is, if it didn't come on, like something was wrong in the universe. Like how could the Foz not hit the jukebox and it not come on? Like there's
Right.
something devastating is about to happen. So having that moment, as soon as I read it, I was like, oh yeah. That's not going to be for everybody. someone's going to miss that joke, but the people that it's going to land on, it's going to be very special for them. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I love her for that, for living in the moment.
For sure. And I love the fact that you know, the first season was sort of at least some of the characters getting to know each other for the first time. And you
Mhm.
could kind of see that evolution of Gurgs. She's a little much at times for people to take in,
Yes.
and everyone kind of getting used to her over that first season, and now she just, it feels like in season 2 she fits like a glove with
Mhm.
this team, and
Mhm.
I think that was so perfectly the way it rolled out. I also love the fact with Gurgs that there's such a randomness to, you know, she'll drop some sort of weird party that she had over the weekend, or like she has these weird habits and these weird hobbies, but I think it's all tied to the attitude of, you know, I'll try anything. Like I'll
Mhm.
try anything this life offers me. I think that's sort of the underlying thing for this character as well, is this openness to experiences that other people might kind of look oddly at,
Mhm.
but she's the happiest person in the room, right?
Yes, and I think it does go back to living in the moment. There was a moment where someone may have presented writing a book to her, and so we know for a fact that she's written some novels. There is a moment that someone said, "Hey, do you want to be in a band?" And we know that she's got two sets of twin brothers, and they were all in a band together. That all the brothers played the drums. So it was like, what what did Gurgs do? We also know that she travels. In one moment, someone presented to her, "Do you want to go to France?" Yeah, I'm 8 years old, but yeah, sure, I'm gonna go to France and leave my parents behind. Like, so I think all of these things that she does just comes out of the moment, and she's just like, yes, she's very much a yes and person. Yeah, I think so.
Is, is that something that you relate to? Is that something that you draw from within to bring to
It's
her?
something that I wish I was. I
Yeah,
wish I would say yes more.
we all do.
But again, like I get shy. I get worried. I think too far ahead instead of just being like right here to say, oh, well, here's an opportunity for, we're going to shoot a movie. It's set in Kansas City. You're from Kansas City. You're already acting and have been acting at your children's theater. You'd be great in this movie. Why don't you talk a little bit more about yourself? And I didn't. And I wasn't in the movie.
Mm.
So I feel like she definitely has a freedom that I wish I had, and that by playing her, I'm getting better at.
Well, look, season 2 has been amazing so far. What's the
Yay.
energy been like from your side of things, from creating these shows, season 2 versus season 1? You guys coming back, there was a delay, there was the strike, now you're in full force. How's it feel?
Oh, what do we say? It's we're coming out of the gate. We're coming out hot. Like, we're so happy to be back together. First of
Mm.
all, there's that. And we love being around each other, and distance made the heart grow fonder. We had 6 months where we weren't able to create art together. And so now it's just, there is definitely an electricity on lot 10, because we're grateful. Not only are we grateful, but we love each other, and we're discovering more things about each other from the writers in the scripts we get every week, and we're thrilled about that. So we're. It, I love going to work every day. Even if I'm tired, I'm still excited to go, because I know that we're going to have fun. We're going to get to know each other better, and we're going to create art together.
Yeah. Now, you know, you have this opportunity from the gate. You're on this new boots of this classic show. So you know there's going to be attention. You know that there's going to be this built-in fan base. Were you yourself part of that fan base? Did you have an appreciation for the old Night Court?
Absolutely. Some of the jokes I missed, of course, because I was like 8 or 9 when I was watching the show. But I
Yeah.
was always watching things that were. I was called a precocious child. I didn't quite understand what that was. I was like, I'm not precious. I was a precocious child, very wise beyond my years. So I was always watching, like, everything on Nick at Night. Nick at Night was slightly different when I was little. It was like the Patty Duke show, I Dream of Jeannie. I was watching stuff on BBC, so I was watching Keeping Up Appearances, Are You Being Served? And so Night Court fit into all of that comedy, and a lot. That's how a lot of my humor got nurtured, was from things that normal. Not, I don't want to say normal kids, but kids of my time were watching, because we were mostly, but I did still watch cartoons too. So it was just a little bit of everything that kind of colored the kind of funny person that I am today. And yeah, like I said, I didn't catch all the jokes, but there was something about Night Court that always drew you in and you wanted to watch it, whether it was 5 minutes of you not knowing what was going on,
Mm.
you were still invested in all of these characters.
Yeah, yeah. It was definitely there was always a sense of fun in the original one. Like
Mhm.
I think to your point, even if you didn't know exactly what was going on, the characters themselves just kind of drew you in. And I think also so did what so many of those shows brought to the table, which is the communal laughter of a
Mhm.
classic sitcom with a studio audience.
Yeah.
And you have this amazing career thus far already where you've done everything. You've done big screen stuff, you've done drama stuff, you've done Broadway.
Mhm.
How does that color your appreciation in just the genre of being on a sound stage and performing comedy in front of a studio audience?
It's nice because the project that I did before this was single cam, very much on location. It was a dramedy. And with single cam, you can't laugh in between because you can't mess up the take.
Right.
And so I was learning to trust myself as an actor, trust you're funny. We can always watch things back. You can see what doesn't work, but also like trust your director. That's what they're there for, to guide you towards whatever they want that end product to be. So, I was prepared to do more single cam and to get more comfortable with that. And then Night Court came across my lap, and I was like, "Oh, thank goodness!" Because you've got multicam, so you don't have the weird moments where you're talking to someone but that person is not there. Like you get to actually act with each other, and experience this scene together, from start to finish. There have been some times where we may have changed angles, but for the most part, like we're talking and we're listening to each other. And then we've got the added character of our crew getting to laugh, our creative team getting to laugh, and then on Fridays when we have our live audience, that energy coming from them. So it's a much easier gauge on how you're doing, or
Yeah.
or what may need to change. And because that's so much like live theater, I feel more at home, way more comfortable here than single cam.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask because I feel like I've asked this exact question probably a dozen different times to a dozen different guests, and I've gotten a dozen different answers.
Hmm.
But it's such a weird but cool blend the sitcom stage is of theater and TV, and it's like what do you depending on what your background is, everyone seems to have a different kind of balance in their head of where they need to focus audience versus where the cameras are, and everyone
Hmm.
kind of has that challenge of getting that right mix in their mind. From your perspective, from your experience, was it tough to adjust to playing for the cameras at the same time as playing to the studio audience?
I think I tend to play more to my acting partner. And so it's often the directors that'll be like, "Don't forget, this is your camera. Don't forget, you're upstaging yourself. Don't forget, keep yourself open." I'm just like, "No, but the person is right here." So I want to
Right.
talk to them. I'm not worried about these other cameras and these other eyes that are everywhere else. But I have to keep that in mind because there are certain aesthetics that need to be captured in the shot. So it's a fine line between the theatrical and the wanting to have a connection with the person that's opposite you. So yes, I just leave that to the directors. If I need to open, just tell me to open, but for the most part I'm going to be 50-50 with everybody.
That's good. Coachability,
Mhm.
that's important in the NFL and the
Definitely.
NBA on
Mhm.
night court. Um,
Mhm.
so it's been I presume you're still in the middle of production for season number 2.
Mhm.
Um, so far, it hasn't been long so far, but do you have a standout memory, something that comes to mind as far as an episode or a scene or even just a line in the moment in front of that live crowd that just stands out as particularly special to you or special energy that you got on those Friday nights?
I think so. This one is so silly, and you don't see the long, drawn out version of it. But there's these keys that I had. This is like I don't even remember if it might have been the pilot episode or the second episode of the first season, and it was just I just dropped them. That's it. But there was an interaction between me and John Larroquette, and the audience is going bananas. What they didn't know was that my back was killing me.
Mm.
But because there was so much adrenaline coursing through my body, like that back pain went away and I was in it for the joke. And they were just, I mean, raucous laughter. And so, yes, I did milk that moment, but it was also a lovely moment between all of us because all of us were just watching each other. And when life just went into slow motion as I picked up these keys off the ground, like that's all that it was. But for us, it was a great moment to really like click in with each other. And I
Yeah.
don't know what anybody else was thinking in those moments, but I felt like we were all picking those keys up off the floor because we were watching each other so closely. Yeah, so that's a moment that really does stand out for me.
Did that moment make it into the episode?
No.
It did.
No, no, 'cause it was like I felt like I was picking up those keys for like 2 minutes, so we didn't have time for all that. I
I,
may have made the blooper reel.
I'm gonna age myself a little bit, even beyond the '90s, because what comes to mind immediately is those old like Dick Clark and Ed McMahon blooper shows where they would just
Mhm,
show all
mhm.
tailor made, or of course DVDs or Blu-rays, which nobody buys those
Yeah.
anymore anyway. But um, so much good stuff on the cutting room floor. I'm sure.
So much.
So Gurgs, we've talked a lot about the character of Gurgs, and I know that we don't want to get into spoiler territory. We're in the middle of a season, for Pete's sake.
Mhm, mhm,
But I want to ask you, just from your heart, from your mind, if you have a bucket list for Gurgs,
mhm.
whether it's for this, whether the show lasts another 2 seasons or 40 seasons, whatever the case
Yeah.
may be, what's something that you would love to happen to or for Gurgs at some point in the
Oh.
future?
So so my thing is, and I've asked Dan and he won't answer the question. Dan, our head writer, Dan Rubin,
Mm.
her last name is Gorganis. Now, when I look at my heritage, there are no Gorgani there. So I've asked him, like, how is she a Gorganis? Is she married into a Greek family? Was she adopted by a Greek family? Like, how does that work? He won't answer the question. So I would like to know where does Gorganis come from for Gurgs? Is she a twin? Because she talks about her twins all the time.
Mm.
So is she also a twin? We've met one of her nephews. Will she have a baby? We know that she's dating a duke. So what's going to happen with that relationship? But we also know that she has a boo and a backup boo. Does she still have a backup boo? Like what? Ooh, what is all of this? So yeah, I'm just open to whatever they want, whatever journey that they want to take her on. And if they ask me questions, I'm more than happy to say this is what I would like to see. But I will see what they do for her.
I would be willing to bet that if you did a blind survey for your the entire cast, and the question was which character beyond your own would you love to play, I think everybody
Ooh.
would love to be Gurgs. You are, I mean, and look, quite honestly, in future seasons, if we're going on location, if we're traveling is somewhere, in this great wide world of ours, Gurgs is the conduit to that, I'm sure. Just
Oh
all
yeah.
you three different things you said just now. She's dating a duke. She's got roots in Greece. Like you guys could go so many places, and it would all be on Gurg's back. So you are
That would
you
be
are the
so cool.
linchpin of.
I am so flattered. Thank you.
All right. Well, look, and look, it's an amazing show. You are doing an amazing job. The character is amazing, but it's such a great um,
Mhm.
ensemble cast where there's just a bevy of characters that you can fall in love with.
Yeah.
And it's just like we remember, and
Good.
getting better and better and better. And we hope that you guys continue to check it out. Of course, Night Court is on NBC. New episodes on Tuesdays, and of course, you can catch up on all of them on Peacock as well. So we encourage you to do so, and keep up with Lucretia because Gurgs is going places, literally. So
Aw.
thank you, Lucretia. And I know between your two careers of acting and gaming, we are glad that we could squeeze you in, and you could squeeze us in, I should say. And thank you
Aw.
so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
So great to talk to you, and so great to see you guys again. 90s to now. Make sure you subscribe, that you share, that you tell your friends, do all the things that you do to keep us growing. And for all of us, I am Jerry Strauss. We will see you next time. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Lucretia.
Thank you, Jerry.